The footwear industry changed its construction standards 3 times between 1985 and 2010. The brand names stayed exactly the same. What you've been reading as cheap isn't your taste failing. It isn't age. It's a downgrade that happened quietly, beneath labels you'd trusted for decades, and the eye registers it before the brain has time to form an opinion. There's a term cobblers use for this. They call it the silhouette clock, the combination of toe shape, sole profile, and heel stack that timestamps a dress shoe to a window of 5 to 10 years. Every shoe carries one. The eye reads that clock automatically, the way it reads a font or a car grille. And when the clock is wrong, the shoe doesn't just look dated. It looks cheap, regardless of what it cost, regardless of who made it. These are the 5 dress shoes that are quietly dating men over 60, and what has replaced each one. In the mid-1990s, the square toe was a deliberate design statement. Width across the toe box was a signal. It said modernity. It said the wearer knew where fashion was going. At the time, that was true. By 2012, the statement had expired. The silhouette clock on a square-toed dress shoe now reads 1996 to 2004. Not because the shoe is old, most of them aren't. Because the shape belongs to a window, and the window has closed. A 400-pound square-toed Oxford timestamps its wearer more aggressively than a 60-pound round toe from a high street brand. The price is irrelevant. The clock doesn't care what you paid. There is a second problem underneath the first. The square toe's commercial peak coincided with the entry of cemented construction into the premium tier. Men buying at a price point that should have meant a welted sole, a Goodyear welt, the kind built in the English shoemaking tradition of Northampton, where the sole can be detached, replaced, rebuilt, were often receiving a glued one instead. The shoe looked like an investment. It was designed to be discarded. The replacement is the elongated almond toe or the classic round toe. Both are currently reading timeless. Neither timestamps the wearer to a decade. The round toe, in particular, has no clock attached to it. It predates trends entirely, which on a man over 60 reads not as conservative, but as correct. The loafer is not a recent invention. The penny loafer arrived in American collegiate wardrobes in the 1930s, the Wijun, as G.H. Bass called it when they formalized the silhouette in 1936. The horsebit loafer, the Gucci version, was introduced in 1953. For 4 decades, both were built on a slim leather sole close to the ground, with a silhouette that implied ease without effort. Then, sometime around 2008, the sole got thicker. The chunky-soled loafer was a streetwear incursion into the dress shoe market. It worked in that context, on that silhouette, for that audience. On a man over 60, wearing tailored trousers, the silhouette clock reads either orthopedic concession or trend adoption, and both translate the same way to the eye. Both read as insecurity. Both read as a man who is not sure what register he's dressing for. The construction shift underneath it is worth knowing. The traditional loafer was built on a hand-stitched moccasin platform. a single piece of leather wrapping the foot stitched by hand around a last. As the sole grew thicker, that construction was largely replaced by a molded unit sole bonded to a separate upper. The craft left as the volume arrived. The replacement is the original, the penny loafer or the horsebit loafer on a slim leather sole. Both carry a silhouette that predates every trend cycle of the last 30 years. On a man over 60, that reads as authority. The shoe has been correct longer than most trends have existed. The Chelsea boot itself is a legitimate heritage piece. It was developed in the 1850s, worn by the Victorian equestrian set, adopted by the mods in the 1960s, and it has remained in continuous production since. The silhouette, ankle height, elastic side panel, no lacing, is clean, versatile, and genuinely timeless. The extremely pointed version is none of those things. The aggressively pointed Chelsea boot timestamps to 2004 to 2012, the era of British high street fashion when slim jeans and a severe toe were the dominant male silhouette. The point was designed for that silhouette. Worn with the tailored trousers that most men over 60 own, it works against the proportions of everything above it. The clock reads the decade. And on a man over 60, it reads as a costume rather than a wardrobe, as if the shoe belongs to a version of the wearer that no longer exists. The Chelsea boot was, throughout this period, predominantly cemented construction. Corrected grain leather was standard at most price points. The pointed version was never built to last. It was built to sell during a specific window, which has since closed. The replacement is the round-toe Chelsea boot in dark brown or black on a leather or leather-look sole. The round toe has no window. It was correct in 1965, and it is correct now, which is the only timestamp worth wearing. Let's be precise about this, because the brogue is one of the most misunderstood shoes in the heritage wardrobe. The full brogue, the wingtip, with medallion at the toe cap, perforations running the full length of the upper, is a legitimate shoe. It originated as a working boot worn on Irish and Scottish terrain, where the perforations served a practical drainage function. The ornamentation was functional before it was decorative. The problem is not the brogue. The problem is the quantity of decoration and what that quantity signals. A shoe covered in perforations, medallions, and patterning is a shoe that is working very hard to look expensive. The eye reads that effort accurately. Visual noise reads as compensation, and compensation reads as insecurity about the quality underneath. The silhouette clock on a heavily embellished brogue doesn't timestamp a decade. It timestamps an anxiety. Here is what the industry did not tell you. The expansion of broguing from the 1980s onward closely tracks the spread of corrected grain leather and its close relative, calfskin substitutes, in the premium tier. Corrected grain is a leather that has had its surface sanded to remove natural imperfections, then embossed with an artificial grain. It cannot be polished to a high shine. It does not improve with age. Manufacturers added heavier perforations and deeper patterning to leathers that could not justify their price on surface quality alone. The decoration was covering the downgrade. The replacement is the semi-brogue, A single medallion on the toe cap, clean uppers, minimal perforation. It is the version the old money wardrobe actually kept. Not because it is modest, because it requires no compensation. This is not an argument against the trainer. In its correct context, casual, weekend, informal. The trainer is a legitimate choice for a man at any age. This is about a specific use case. The trainer worn with tailored trousers or a blazer, styled as if it occupies the space a dress shoe used to. The industry has a name for this category. It calls it the luxury trainer. Between approximately 2018 and 2022, a significant number of heritage houses and fashion labels, common projects among them, produced white leather sneakers priced at dress shoe levels, marketed to men who had been told that the boundary between formal and casual no longer applied. The boundary still applied. The marketing simply told them otherwise. On a man over 60, a trainer worn in a tailored context reads as concession. Not as relaxed confidence, the eye distinguishes between the two. Relaxed confidence is intentional. Concession is the body language of a man who has stopped negotiating with his wardrobe. The silhouette below the trouser hem undercuts everything above it. The industry sold casualization as sophistication and charged dress shoe prices for the privilege. That is the transaction worth naming. The replacement is the driving shoe or the suede chukka boot. Both are casual enough to wear without a tie. Both carry enough structure to read as intentional beside tailored cloth. Neither requires the wearer to pretend the formal register no longer exists. One final note on construction, because it sits beneath every shoe on this list, and it is rarely explained clearly. There are three methods. Cemented. The sole is glued, cannot be replaced. The shoe is finished when the sole is finished. Blake stitch. The sole is stitched directly through the insole to the upper, repairable, but requiring specialist equipment. And the Goodyear welt, the gold standard of the Northampton tradition, where a strip of leather is stitched between upper and sole, allowing the shoe to be rebuilt entirely. The downgrade across the last 4 decades has largely been a movement down this list, from welt to Blake to cement, under labels that gave no indication anything had changed. The silhouette clock runs on all of us. The difference is knowing when yours is showing, and understanding that if it is, the fault is not yours. These silhouettes were sold to you as permanent by an industry that was already planning the next iteration. The construction was quietly downgraded under the same labels, the same names, the same shop floors. The replacement is not expensive. It is not complicated. It is simply earlier, a silhouette that predates the trend cycle entirely and therefore has nothing to expire. The cobbler has always known the difference. Now you do too.